Woo, what is up, y'all? Force Conversation is back, and we got a very special guest in the house. My brother, please introduce yourself.
What's up, everyone? It's me, a big, positive geek. How's it going, Gid?
My man, it's going okay. It's going all right. Lot happening in Marvel Triforce right now.
We have a fairly angry community on our hands at the moment, it would seem.
Agreed. People are upset. And so I just want to get a shameless plug in. If you're upset about the direction of the game, Player Voice, they're having their elections right now, right? So you have people that are not influencers that can have a direct line with Scopely. That can be you. You just got to fill out the application and put in for it. It's a fantastic experience. I was able to experience it before my envoy time. It's a fantastic experience. Go there to the Discord, fill out the application. You'll do what you can if you're a passionate player.
Yeah, and the good thing about the PV is that it is players of all spending buckets. So it's not just Krakens, it's not just free to play, it is everyone in that bucket. So if you want to make your voice heard, there's the place to do it.
I agree. So we got some folks in the house. We got Bo.
Hey, Bo.
How are you? How are things going, Bo? Thank you for stopping by.
Brother Bo.
Outstanding. So I know we got a lot of good information we want to get into. BPG's always, he's just got that different mind, man, and we need it. It's important. It helps us understand what's happening and what's going down. So we wanted to talk a little bit about characters. The character release method, it's been adjusted many times over the past year or so. BPG's got some insight on that. He's going to be breaking some stuff down for us. I'm super curious to hear this.
Yeah,
if I can find the right button. It's been a minute since we did the podcast. But we do take questions and whatnot. So if you got anything to say, anybody in the audience, shout it out. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, we're here to take your questions and everything like that. So why I wanted to bring this up, Gid, is because this was really the last thing I can remember the community being this hot on. And that was in July last year, when we had the release of good old Black Panther Shuri and Hank Pym. And sneakily, because it wasn't officially announced until Orcus came out that was going to be like the go-to method for obtaining characters outside of buying them. Obviously, we know anyone can go to the web store, they can go to the in-game app store, the in-game store, and they can purchase a character outright at 3-star unlock, or they can purchase it all the way up to 7 stars. That's a given, okay? But for free-to-play folks like myself and light spenders like yourself, Gid, or the occasional Battle Pass spender, that cadence seemed to change. And when that happened, the sky was officially falling. And even I, BPG, the positive one, normally, even I fell into the fear trap that, things were going to be bad or worse. Anyway, so I thought it would be a good time to talk about this now, because we have been doing this now officially for 10 months, nearly a year. We've had the Annihilators, which was an arena team. 2 seconds. Thank you very much. Cup of tea. It's got to be done. The Brit in me has to have my cup of tea.
Beautiful, man. It's beautiful.
So we had the Annihilators, which we weren't too sure, if that was the release method. They did come out in these, Path 2 orbs, but It was the first, the second real team and the first team of the new stat meta that we had. We also had Ares, which was a very weird release method. They certainly played with the release methods quite a bit for characters. Like Ares certainly was the first character I've ever known of. I know, was it Silver Surfer was released a different way? Hey, Ulfnack, how's it going, buddy? Ares was released a very similar way, I believe, to what Silver Surfer was released, where it was through like passes and so on and so forth. So he was a different way of being it, we hadn't seen for a very long time. But then officially, we got news from Scopely that from the Orcus release that was going to be the release method going forwards. And again, you can see I cored some of these. Top healer, number of power core orbs open for unlock. So I would have cored some of these, especially considering that they were a raid team, which is, a big, big thing. Raids to me as a free-to-play player is the number one game mode. So that is going to be wherever I put my power cores to. So we had that. And then we had Blade and Oath and Man Thing, which a Moon Knight and Agatha Harkness again in October, and that was the same release method. But I didn't really core for those guys. I let them come in naturally because at that point I was actually going through Mephisto and Odin, and I knew that once I had both of those with the current team that I had, which was Val and a couple of others, I would be able to get through the Mystic section of the Orcus raid, which is what we were doing at the time, which was the big bottleneck on what the Night Stalkers were made for. The zombies have always been a weird method, so we don't really, they have the same pay to play release date as the free to play release date, pretty much. We then had the controversial Battle World and that team with Shadow King. But what I want to draw your guys' attention to is now we're in January here, and we're in a raid team here with Jean Grey and Hercules. Very important raid team because it was the Spotlight raids, and they were needed to do the second half, which everyone knows about. But you'll see here that we had their sort of free-to-play events. Now, you'll see this is the 28th of February. You probably would have unlocked them a lot quicker than that, but that was a fairly decent timescale. 18 days for Jean Grey between her coming out for offers and her coming out for free-to-play, and 45 days, which would have taken you to the end of February, which was Hercules' month-long event. So really not that bad, but I do want to draw your attention to this look. So this was the date that I 7-starred these characters, the 29th of March, 2025. They came out respectively the 3rd of January and the 14th of January. So that is 85 days and 74 days. Now, I haven't been keeping records of this, and I know a lot of it is all feeling, but to me, that was probably the quickest I have unlocked and 7-starred a character without spending, because I don't spend, since I started playing the game just over 900 days ago. I don't think we've ever had a quicker 7-star than those two characters.
For sure.
And so
for sure.
What I've decided to do now is to continue that. So obviously the next team that is coming down the line that I'm going to be able to track this with is Liberty. They are due to come into the bumps soon. So I will obviously use the bumps to try and get them a bit further. This is, but I'm going to track this, when I get these guys to 7 stars, I will have a defined number of days since release to get those characters to 7-star. And that's what we're looking at, because 7 stars opens up a lot. 7 red stars opens up diamonds, opens up everything else that we're getting. And as a free-to-play player, really and truthfully, 85 days, what's that? 2 months and a half 2.5 months, roughly. For
Round it up
beggar's
and say
sake,
it's
let's
3
call
months.
it 3 months. 3 months to get a character from brand new coming out to 7 stars is amazing. You know, there was, Christ, dare I say it, I can remember Agatha Harkness. People are going to remember this one very well. I can remember Agatha Harkness. I played nearly 12 months of the game before I even had her unlocked because I didn't join the game when her event came out for her to be unlocked. So 12 months later, I actually managed to get Agatha unlocked and get the Apocalypse. She was the last piece I was missing for the Apocalypse campaign, basically.
Yeah, she's necessary. You know,
Yeah.
she's necessary, and she's nowhere to be found at that time.
So that was absolutely crazy. But needless to say, we're going to carry on looking at this. We're going to carry on keeping the data going. And obviously, me and you, Gib, will join up again at some point in time to have a look at this data again. But this is what I'm trying to say. A lot of the community outroar, I think, on things is initially the feeling of how people are feeling, which is fine. We've all got feelings. It's good to show your feelings, but we do need to be very, very analytical with this. And that's where that's what makes me pop about this game is the analytics of the game and what's going on in the game. And, you know, how quick are we doing things and how achievable are things free to play? Because you always hear the downside of people saying, oh, it's really poor. And it really isn't. Like, it really, really isn't that poor.
No, I can agree with that. And I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how the way to say it. Like, one of the things we sometimes don't appreciate as well is that people like play the game differently. And sometimes messages, like when this started, I was really upset because the messaging was coming from people who they're not free to play players at that time. It was just like, so they wouldn't know, you know? And
it's very easy to get like caught up in that very famous thing, negativity breeds negativity. And so if you've got people speaking negatively about something, it's very easy for that negative echo chamber to progress and carry on. And I think we need to, you know, before we go bashing companies and businesses on what they're doing, we do need to give it time, play it, let it play out. You know, like this, we've given it 10 months to play out, and now everyone's really happy with it. I've just noticed that I've not actually put my unlock date for Patriot in here. I really need to do that. I've got that on my phone somewhere. So, but you know, we need to do this. We need to be like analytical about everything here.
no, I agree. And there's usually a path. There's usually a way through. There's usually something that you can do as a free to play player to increase from the standard. Like a lot of what am I saying? Right. So we think of things again in groups. So when we say free to play, in our minds, that's a big group of people, but even that is broken into different groups. Like if somebody's casual, somebody a little more hardcore, somebody more analytical, do people hoard? Do they not hoard? There's usually, for the casual person, then that's the entry point, if I'm making sense. And then any of us who engage with it more than a casual person can usually find some other way to increase our progress, if I'm making sense.
100% good, 100%. And again, you've got to look at that. So unlock dates for now, full disclosure here, vigilantes I have not called for. So I have just let that trickle into my account. Part of that is because I've kind of seen how hard Gear 20 gear is to get hold of. Like there's not been many good free to play ways of earning Gear Tier 20, which is fine. Big character. They've got a, you know, they've got a event running for it at the moment for yellow star, for red stars for him. They want their players who are spending money to be getting the best Professor X they can get. Okay, so they're gonna leaderboard stuff like that. It is going to be more down to the spenders. But this has also given me a really good look at the unlock time periods. Now, you'll see here, Daredevil Modern came out on the 1st of April. I unlocked him on the 15th of April. That's 14 days, 2 weeks. Silver Sable came out on the 10th of April. It's now the 29th of April, and thanks to this, the event that's going on this week in the Command Center, I will have it unlocked later on tonight. So that is 19 days. That's quick.
That's crazy.
That's quick, you know? And I'm assuming we're going to see Hitmonkey again pretty soon after. So I will have the full Vigilante team in my hands, able to be used within a very short time period.
And they work at 3 stars. They'll get you through the raids at 3 stars. I don't know if you can't sim, but they'll get you through.
Yeah, they'll get me through. They'll get me through the raids at 3 stars. They'll get me through the Xavier saga. I'm pretty sure of that. By the time I'm ready for it, which I'm nearly ready for the first city section, they'll get me through it. You know, I might have to reset the node a ton of times, but yeah.
I think that's positive, man. Like that's again, you can't see some of that stuff, like you said, from the surface. You need the numbers to help show what's actually going on. So 100% thank you for being involved in that way.
I see Ulthanax written here. They walked back their entire release schedule that they implemented July 2024. I don't think they've walked it back, Ulthanax, at all. I think what they've done is what we've got to understand is, and this is something that I know when I was in the Envoy program, it was always talked about. This game is a live ops game. Things change on the fly. They're constantly looking at the data. And so they are trying to get the sweet spot for every player. They don't want to alienate free-to-play players. That's stupid, you know? That's like a store. Let's say, I don't know. Let's say I've done this before in my own Discord server, in my Alliance Discord server. So let's say I own an ice cream shop, right? And at my ice cream shop, I give away a sample of ice cream to every customer that wants one. Okay. Now, I get the same customers come back every day, and they come and get a sample of my ice cream every single day just to try it. And then one day I say to them, no, you're not coming in. You're not having the free sample today. But what they're doing for me as a company, firstly, they are a potential customer. I've worked in customer services for a number of years. I've worked in retail and sales for a number of years. They are a potential customer. Every single free-to-play player in this game is a potential customer. Just because they're not spending right this moment doesn't mean they're not going to spend in the future. And so that is how they are looking at this. Certainly, they're looking at it with the fact that, you know, those customers, those free-to-play customers, maybe we're losing a few too many free-to-play players, so we're going to jiggle the release method slightly. And not jiggle it slightly, because we're still getting the Path 2 orbs. We're still getting the Phase 1. We're still getting a character within the first 30 days. This time we've had 2 characters within the first 30 days, you know? So yeah, the rest will be farmable after 4 months and farmable after 3 months. Yeah, I get that, Ulthanac. They've not, like I said, they've not exactly walked it back. What they've done is they've adjusted as they've gone. It's not a walk back, because they've not gone back to not giving us the Path 2 orbs. They've not gone back to not having a Phase 1. They were very clear that there was a Phase 1, a Phase 2, and a Phase 3 to us when we were when I was in the Envoy program. Very, very clear. Phase 1 was the Path 2 orbs. Phase 2 would be their releases, and then phase 3 would be everything else after that. So their strike passes, everything like that. Now we get free to play unlock and event unlock after 2 weeks, like 2023. Only just. Past 2 teams, we've had that sort of free to play unlock. If you see here, Falcon, we had Peggy Carter within the first 14 days, but then Falcon Joaquin was nearly a month before he had an event that we were able to get him free to play. And Patriot, I haven't put that down, but I think it was around about the similar sort of time that I got Patriot unlocked as well. So
yeah, I think they're just trying to clear out to start the Age of Annihilus, if that makes sense. So they're just literally pushing everybody out so that they can start the next round of characters.
Exactly. But it's by no way means a walk back of the system that they said they were going to do. I wouldn't say it was a walk back. I would say it's more of a, as you said, Gid, possibly a roundup to get into the Age of Annihilus where things might change again. We don't know. We've not been told everything to do with Age of Annihilus yet. Certainly as the boots on the ground, shall we say, the players, we haven't been told everything to do with Age of Annihilus. I don't know whether the envoys have, but if they have, they're obviously still under NDA and they can't say anything.
I will say this. I'll say this. They're keeping a lot of that stuff close to the vest, man. I mean, you see the way some of the releases happen, or they seem to just be in certain people's hands at a time, which is fine. But a lot of us, we don't know, man. So we'll have to see what happens.
But so this was the first thing that we all got up in arms. Well, not the first thing, but this was the major thing that I can remember that we all got up in arms about as a community, was this whole thing. And they've gone forwards with it. Yes, they've adjusted slightly as they've gone on. We can see that from the data that things have adjusted slightly, but they've kept on with that method. They've walked through that method. They've gone through. And this is why I don't think Overpower is going to be any different. I want to share this with you, Gid. Let's share this tab. So when we're talking about this is from pocketgamer.biz. There's plenty of others. You can go and have a look on the website, basically. But less than 2% of mobile gamers make an in-app purchase. This is from Unity. Unity is the main engine for a lot of mobile games. And it says here that, only 1.83% of mobile gamers spend money on in-app purchases, according to a new report. And this is a report from 2024. So 1.83% of our community is providing pretty much the entirety of the revenue that this game brings in. Okay. I think people need to get accustomed to that. That is a very small percentage of players bringing in the most money. And why is that important where Overpower is concerned? Well, the reason why that's important where Overpower is concerned, in my opinion, and again, this is my opinion, so is the fact that they need to feel good about their spending. And I think if you were to talk to the vast majority of players who spend on the game, whether they're spending very, very small or very, very big, they weren't feeling happy about their spend. Now, the small spenders now are not feeling happy about their spend because they're no longer able to, shall we say, or it's assumed that they're no longer able to punch up as high as they were. There are teams that used to work. I know Mobile Gamer has gone on about the fact that, in war, he can no longer use Gamma as a counter to Spider Society because of Overpower.
No, that's true. It's a true statement, right? If you didn't put any power into them, and your Spider Society is a raid team, which we put a lot of power into.
Yeah,
you can't
exactly.
Cheap out on the
counters. And the thing you've got to ask is, like, it's going to sound really bad. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. And if I get hate for it, I get hate for it. Bollocks to it. But how entitled are you if you think that a team that is 3 years old, yes, it's in their lane, it's in war, but that team now is 3 years old. Again, character release schedule will tell you that. That team is now 3 years old. Spider Society came out middle of last year. In fact, we can tell you exactly when it came out. Spider Society officially came out in its full team by the 15th of April. So just over a year ago now. Yeah, as you said, Ulfmac, Spider Society was an Omni team. It was good for everything. It was the Infinity Watch of our era, basically, of 2024. Last character, was Penny Parker, who came out on the 26th of April. So 1 year, 3 days old, and you're expecting a team that is 3 years old to not only be able to punch up into this team, which would have already had higher stats because obviously the stats are inflated team on team on team on team on team. Every single time a new team comes out, the new stats have to come in, or bigger stats have to come in, or bigger kits have to come in, because that's the whole nature of how they make the game. It's power creep. We know this. But how can you expect a team that is 3 years old to beat a team that is just over a year old now? Yes, in their game mode, but at a lower resource input than what someone has put into that team, that new team. Like, how in anyone's mind does that make the player who's put those resources into that new team, because it's used for raids and because it was on, an Omni team, how does that make that player feel good? By getting a team smashed by someone who's like, I don't know, level 105 geared to 8, level 100, geared to 18, shall we say? Because that's what we're talking about.
Oh, but I think this is one of the things too that, and Altanak, you're 100% right. And I want to say this: Altanak is a good player. He's a good cat in the community. He usually doesn't start problems.
100%.
I think he's upset about the overpower, which a lot of people are, because everybody's upset about the overpower. But this right here, what you're saying is 100% true, and this is another one of the things that is actually a problem, and it's causing difficulty in other areas of the game. We don't have to go super deep into it, but think about it. Starjammers came out and they didn't do what they were supposed to do. People were countering them with old characters. Mm-hmm. And you say, "Oh, Scopely doesn't test their game." Like, bro, I'm trying to tell you, they test it. But the amount of characters that have influence, like you said, 4-year-old characters, the amount of characters and just combinations, just the fact that you move characters around so their passives proc in a different order, it's impossible to keep track of all that stuff. And so they're trying to push teams that we haven't invested. It's obvious, it's blatant. They're not being sneaky about it. If you didn't invest in a team recently, if you haven't put any power in a team, they're trying to push those characters off the board. That's what's happening.
Yeah. Precisely. And I know historically war teams have had a 4-year longevity, but we are going through a period, I think, where that longevity is lessening for teams. I think we're seeing You know, example is clear as day here. As I said, last member for Spider Society came out just over a year ago now. Now we would have had a complete year with most raid teams. The Chaotic Storm raids came out, I want to say 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. So we got like 11 months out of Spider Society before they were sort of shut out from the raid completely, because their section was arguably the hardest section of that Chaotic Storm raid. So less time than less time than what bio was, because the bio lane is pretty simple. With at difficulty 5, you can sack it and go straight for it with the thingy, but the skill lane was a lot harder, which is obviously was intended, which is why they've brought out the vigilantes when they did. But I think we're going to see times now where our investments in their specific game modes will be shorter. Now, what could they have done to help with this situation is possibly address that. And Gid, correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes their communication is pretty poor where things come. And I think that's where the big problem is. I don't think there's a problem in Overpower. Again, that's a personal opinion. It's not a feeling though, because it is my opinion, but it's not a feeling to me. I will tell you one thing. Now, I have a guy in my arena shard. I'm sure you won't mind me mentioning him, but his name is Asgaz. He is from the Alliance Questionable Proprietary. And I always see him within the top sort of 100, 150 players on leaderboards. Recently, he has held the number 1 spot in our arena quite well. But he's always fighting for that number 1 spot. Nothing. He says to me, nothing in arena is holding, and that's a big problem. You know, he is spending vast amounts of money, more than what I would be willing to spend on a game. And I know people's spends are, how can we say this? People will spend what they can afford. Yeah. So they will spend on this hobby, this pastime, this, you know, for their enjoyment, they will spend what they can afford. But some of what these guys are spending is absolutely, it's mind-boggling amounts of money on a game. And poor person trying. The selling point of the game is to use your favorite characters. Yes. Now, see, this is what I was going to say. This is where their communications aren't great. You would go, certainly if you were to look at the an advert for Marvel Strike Force, and games are no different. You know, there's a lot of games are no different, but you look at the adverts for Marvel Strike Force and you've got them using Spider-Man and all that. And yes, I know they are well-known characters within the Marvel Strike or within the Marvel universe as a whole. You know, Spider-Man. Who doesn't know Spider-Man? You know, who doesn't know Spider-Man in Marvel? You know, and to have a character like that not be, and it was in, I think it was Dorky's stream or something like that today. I was watching a bit of Dorky Dad's stream today, actually. And this is a tangent now, kid. Sorry about this. I was watching Dorky Dad's stream, and actually someone came up with a really good idea, in my opinion. Again, this is just my opinion, and I want you guys to let me know what you think. Someone said in Dorky Dad's stream, wouldn't it be good if those flagship characters like Spider-Man, like Wolverine, like you know, certain characters, not all characters, because there are some characters that still have really, really, really broken kits that if you updated their stats, that would be that would be the end of it. For example, Baron Zemo, if you were to update Baron Zemo's stats to the current day, that would be an absolute minefield to go through. But someone came up with the idea in Dorky's stream of them, like these flagship characters like Spider-Man, like Hulk, all of these flagship characters. Instead of reworking them for teams, once every so often, just rework their stats. Keep their kit as it is. Rework the stats to the new stats. Give them a bit of a bump. Make that player who's just come to the game, and he's come to the game because let's get this right, they rather than he. They've come to the game because their favorite character is Spider-Man and they want to play with Spider-Man. Well, let's not make them feel shitty about their investments into Spider-Man. Let's give them a character that they can at least play with for a decent amount of time in Spider-Man, in some of the bigger characters, in the flagship characters. Now, you're not going to get everyone there. Like, I don't think they would do Agent Venom, for example, but
That's not a bad idea, man. That's not a bad idea at all. They'd just be like a standalone. He's just a Hulk. He does Hulk stuff. His story does Thor stuff. And no, that'd be a good idea.
Can you imagine? Like, I know it won't happen as badly, but can you imagine? Let's fast forward. Let's say 10 years' time, we're still playing the game, yeah, and they haven't touched a character like Professor Xavier in 10 years. Like, that's a big Marvel character. That's a huge Marvel character, yeah. And as the time's gone on in the game, to have just left that character to the side would be an absolute travesty. So those types of people, those types of characters, I think the big characters, and I'm not talking about the big characters like Super Skrull and Mephisto and that. I'm talking about the big characters that everyone would know from the comics or from the films or.
No, I agree. And the meta can only contain so many people. But something this is just a me thing. And if other people are interested in this, like, we can make some noise, right? We be respectful, but make some noise. Like, I think a bigger game mode of some sort, like when you talk about using your whole roster, like some type of like ultimate, I keep calling it like the ultimate raid, or on the PvP side, like a conquest mode where literally you use all of your characters, right? Like, you can only use one person, you can only use that person once a day. Once you use them, they're gone. You're just trying to make as much progress as possible every single day. You make it so it's like, it takes like, I'm talking about something that takes like a month, 2 months, 3 months.
Oh, and the rest. Do you know what? As much as I laugh, right? So I played. Boylon. Some people would have seen is doing a Raid Shadow Legends thing at the moment. He's got his own channel. Mobile Gamer's got his own channel. 2 seconds, guys. No, thank you, buddy. No, thanks, mate. Thank you. Dear Vin. Biggest noise right now is people silently quitting. 50k players lost in 2 weeks. Yeah, so that is big, but that's 50k players off the. Well, we don't know where those 50k players have gone from. Have they come from the top? Have they come from the bottom? Have they, where have they come from? I'll be honest with you. I was more worried. As much as I love those sort of things, the analytics that Boylan's doing with the 50k players and stuff like that, I was actually more worried when someone like Sevi, who was, predominant member of the player's voice, a spender herself, when, for her own moral reasons, she quit because of things that was happening within Scopely and everything like that, and things that they weren't aware of as the player's voice, or certainly they claim they weren't aware of it as the player's voice. That worries me more. 50k players is a lot of players, but where has that come from? Is that players who have picked it up because, you know, for example, Dorky Dad's has done a now I know it wouldn't be 50k players, but Dorky Dad's just recently done like a sponsorship thing with Stream Elements for Marvel Strike Force, so that would have pulled some of his community in from that, you know, with new accounts. So how much of that is newer accounts that are just being dropped because they've not liked the game, whatever, that sort of thing? How much of that is that? How much of that is just a general clear out? Because that's only looking at like the engaged player community. That is only people who took part. It's giving a very specific snapshot, isn't it, of a week's worth of event, which is great. Snapshots are brilliant, and we have seen some trends. You know, being in the mass here, we are seeing trends of downward falling, but we're also a game that is, you know, at its 7-year anniversary now. The people playing the game is going to go down slightly, and then it will go up again, and then it will go down again. It's the way of the game, isn't it? You know, and I think Overpower.
So just on another note, like you're 100% right, and I don't want to be. I'll be the negative Nancy here. So they made a decision, right? They knew Overpower was going to be confrontational. They knew it, and it showed. Right? They didn't really ask much questions on it. They just did it, and then they said, "Hey, it's coming to PvE." So that this is something that they are just putting in. They know that it's going to cause problems, but that also means that they're willing to. Right? They knew that people were going to leave. They knew people were going to quit, but at the same time, I'm confident they felt that it's a course correction that was going to fix a lot of things all at once. People weren't going to like it. I played Marvel Future Fight. They had they did it differently. They basically had like a patch of super strong characters. You couldn't get them free to play. Mm-hmm. People lost their minds. People quit. I came here from that. I think Valley Flying came here from that same event from Marvel Strike Force.
Yep.
Marvel Future Fight is still going. Right? The game didn't die.
And it's cool, dude. It's cool. And I think what we need to do now, Gid, is just take a look at this, because I actually, talking of leaderboards, for that, you've given me the perfect segue into this.
Jack, is this Jack Reach? Is this my guy, Jack Reacher?
Game has felt very fresh coming back. Yeah, cool. Also did not explain Overpower as they do with any game mechanics, so we can't audit it if Overpower is working properly or not. We don't know if the damage is additive or multiplicative. Yeah, again, that's a communication issue with them, you know. I will wholeheartedly admit that communication is not their strong point, but they are, I would say, partially getting better at it. Certainly since Pathfinder has got to the company and started to get his feet under the table a bit more. And, you know, we haven't had the amount of communication that we have had from Scopely as a player base. You know, you look, the strike times that we've been having recently, just today they've literally released a video today about the ages thing again, with a different person going through all the changes that they're going to make to war. I haven't watched it fully yet. Gid, you were watching it when we came on. those things, it's a work in progress, I think, is what I'm going to say there. But what I want to draw your attention to, you'll see the top of my spreadsheet actually says how much does it cost to be a Kraken. I'm going to change that to how much does it cost to top 100 a leaderboard event, because I think this is very, very important figures to come across here. So this is from the Monkey Business event that we've just done. Obviously, it just wrapped up on Monday, so yesterday. And the scoring for the event was as follows. So if you had hit Monkey at 7 yellow stars and used him in raids, you could get 15,000 points. Now, people are going to say, well, they've got the character, the Krakens are going to get the character anyway, but you still have to take that money into account when you are doing these leaderboards, because these points, if they didn't have that character at 7 yellow stars, they wouldn't get these points. So to buy any character at 7 yellow stars with the current chain offers that they do, which is the best bang for buck offers where that's concerned, without going down the path to orbs and hoping that you, play the crab table and get your lucky numbers. But that is costing you, this is Great British pounds. So I believe the figure is very similar in dollars. So for me to buy a character at 7 yellow stars, if I was going to, is 339, nearly 340 pounds. Okay. So we have Hitmonkey, Silver Sable, and Daredevil Modern, all 340 pounds. Okay. There was the Daredevil Modern Diamond Orb, which wasn't a great bang for buck, really. There was 76,500 points available from that offer. But those 5 offers would have cost you 75 quid. We had the raid battles, that was free to play, 75,000 points, not a problem. Fallen Dimension, if you just did the very first run of Fallen Dimension, or your 2 runs, the normal Fallen Dimension, that was worth 20,000 points. Fallen Dimension Omega, which you were actually able to get 3 runs in, but obviously I put down 2 when it was initially done because we didn't know about the 3rd run. Again, communication, Scopely. This is where you need to learn to communicate better. If that was intended, that 3 runs on, if the 3 runs were intended in Fallen Dimension Omega, that should have been communicated, because that might have made the difference of some free-to-play players coring for Silver Sable and Hitmonkey to be able to take part in that if they wanted to get higher up on the leaderboards. It would have also meant that some people might have put their hand in their pocket to spend money. And I go back to this constantly, and I said this to Stark when I was in the Envoy program. You've only got to look at the Captain Britain release, the initial release of Captain Britain, to show that the communicating the way that it was going to happen with him as an epic character, that he was going to come out, you were going to get a chance to get him, and then he was going away. And you needed him at a certain level to do X, Y, Z. And I think they saw more revenue through that and more sales of Captain Britain, well, of the 2 characters of Shuri and Hank Pym, to be able to unlock Captain Britain and to, get him up to 5 yellow stars, because everyone was losing their mind that it was going to be something like Old Man Logan was for the next legendary when they announced that he was needed for that legendary. So they spent. So again, communication is massively key. So if you had your easy no investment points, you were looking at 98,500. If you had called for or bought the characters, 142,500 points. We had a daily free claim, 3,500 points, So that gives us a total of 181,500 points. That 181,500 points would have cost any player getting those points £1,094.83. Now, yes, they've got 7-star characters that they can use week in, week out, day in, day out, etc. Okay, so I get that. Now we go to the offers. Pardon me. Sorry, Rick. So we had this Monkey Business web special that gave 43,000 points. Was £39.99, 1,075 points per pound, basically. This offer here, 35k points. It was the daily points. This one gave 1,167 points per pound and was a £30 budget. And there was a midterm offer, which I haven't put on here, but there was a midterm offer that was lower than this. It was only just lower. So it would have been, again, a reasonable bang for buck. But I did also think maybe that people would have bought this one because of the Gear Tier 20 orbs that were available in it. Obviously, with Professor X being a big thing at the moment. So let's take a look at the players. So we have the Orca. This was the guy who was number 1 right the way through, and I took these figures down yesterday when the leaderboard finished. 1,561,500 points. So the difference from the total that he could have got from spending his, money on his characters and everything like that is 1,380,000 points, basically. That equates to nearly 40 of the £30 offers. That is £1,182.46 in offers. Total cost for the event, £2,277. That's for one leaderboard event. Yeah.
Wow.
Position 98, which was OG Diamond Dave. He was fairly quick through the Professor X saga, so we know this guy very well within the community. He finished at 574,000 points, which is a 392,500 points difference from total. 11 of the offers, 336 quid. That still is a £1,431.15 investment.
So I'm not very math number literate. It's just a problem I have. So you're saying that this is beyond the characters. This is just to score points.
So the total cost in offers here, so £336 to £1,182. That is just the cost that they would have spent in this event outside of the characters that they would have bought to be able to get some of those points that we consider whale stones. You'll hear me say about this sort of quite often, whale stones or spender points. I try to refer to it as now because I don't really like the word whale stones. But spender points, basically. £1,182 from the Orca, £336.32 from the from OG Diamond Dave, who was at 98. And I know someone a content creator who I've recently started following, a guy called Dinman, who I've shared the video with you, Gid. But
Sorry, I had stuff going on in the background.
That's okay, dude. That's okay. So we have Dinman, and hopefully I've sent Gid it, so hopefully he'll be able to put it in the description or something like that, so you guys can go and check him out. But there is a video that he's put out recently, which is about Cosmic. He does Cosmic Crucible and that, but in this Cosmic Crucible video that he did a day ago, he actually went over how much it cost him to land in the top 500, and that was still just shy of $100. Now, if you can imagine dropping $100 every 2 weeks to land within the top 500, of an event. That's not including the characters that he's bought. So if we were to include the characters that he's bought and anything else, we're looking still at over $1,000. That's a lot of money. That is a hell of a lot of money to be putting into a game, only then for someone who hasn't spent that money to come and be able to easily knock you off. So this leads into my story that I was saying about. Sorry for the massive tangent there again. But this leads me into the story that I was saying about, which is in my arena shard, I have Asgaz from Questionable Proprietary. And the only time I have felt good for him about the spends that he has spent on the game was when his Gear Tier 20 Thanos Endgame wiped my arena team off the map with a rain of fire. At that point, I thought, yeah, do you know what? The guy's put some serious cash into this game. He's always in, like I said, he's always in within like the top 150 of the leaderboards and stuff like that. He's put some serious money into the game, and he deserved that little win. That little win, because free to play me, I've been able to, for the past 12 months, compete in my arena shard completely free to play within the top between 10 and 20 players of my arena shard, and I've not paid a penny into the game. And that's not saying that I don't think punch ups should be available, but I do think that people should feel, people who are spending money like that, people who are spending £1,000 on a team every single time a team comes out to get them to 7-star, they need to feel good about their investment. Because if they don't, what's going to happen is they don't spend that money. And if they don't spend that money, those 2% of mobile gamers that make an in-app purchase, well,
there's no game.
They're no longer part of that. And every time they stop spending, that's when the game goes down the hole. That's when the game shuts down. Does that make sense, Gid?
I know, and I agree with that. I agree with what you're saying. You're spot on, my man. You're spot on. And I think
that's why I think Overpower had to be put in as a balancing point for PvP. PvE, I actually think it is a completely different ball game. I've gone over this in my most recent Friday video, but I want to just... I'm going to share one more screen with you, Gid. Sorry.
No, it's good.
You chat with the guys a minute, and I will find what I'm looking for, because I wasn't prepared for this bit, but it's just come to my mind.
No, I understand. You put your screen away so you're not showing your business. But I think, here's the thing. In Overpower is new, and I'm not saying the Overpower is awesome and I love it. That's not what I'm saying. But I think with any system, it's just repeated over the course of time. It's looked different. They're forcing a wedge at this point to force people apart. Gear 20 is the only step. There's one step in between us and the spender. As time goes on, we get Gear 20. We'll get more of that step. And then when we get too close, the next step will come out, which is probably purple ISO. But there's a rubber band effect that will let us catch back. They will let us catch back up. And then when it gets too close, they'll push us apart again. And it just keeps having that rubber band effect. That's what you want in a game, because that's where you capture your different spending points.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm ready to share stuff now, mate.
All right.
Let them have shiny toys which excel in areas, but allow others to catch up in other areas. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what they've been doing. I don't think training materials have been as good as they are now. They tracking this officially, they are great. gold has never been in as good a place as it has been now. I think the game is actually, outside of all the controversy, shall we say, all this Overpower controversy, which is getting whipped up quite a bit, without knowing all the facts and figures, I think that the game is actually in a really good state as a whole. Now, I want to show you guys this. Some of you won't have seen these sort of things before. Those of you who have, cool. This is a data file. This is a JSON file for the Professor Xavier saga. This is the Gladiator mission details. Ton of gobbledygook here. So I'm going to take you over to this tab here now, which is a JSON viewer. And in this, you'll see here, it's got the Saga, Xavier, Mission Details, Gladiator. And in here, you'll see, here we go. So this is the very first node of the Gladiator hard campaign. Okay. We've got the additional combat modes available here, Mission, Challenge, and Horseman. Now, this Mission, Challenge, Horseman part, that normally means that anything that has like any team that they put in there, and in this scenario, this is the city section. This is the part that basically says if a character has, I need 4 of this character of this team to make this ability work, it works whether I've got 1 of them or 4 of them. Okay, so that's like the overriding. That's the additional effective combat modes. There are sometimes others that you'll see here. There are others like you'll see AVA, which is Alliance versus Alliance or War mode active. You'll see the Crucible active in here, everything like that. So now we go to settings and we go here and we're going to look at the wave lists now. So this is just showing you what the coding's like for everything. And the reason why I want to do this is because I want to show people how much work goes into this. Okay. So this is your wave lists. This is your waves. You can see here, turn speed, that's the turn bar, max slot fill, max slot required. That is how many slots this wave is going to take up and how many slots is required. And this is how you tell from the data files when a wave will drop. So what the requirements are for the next wave to drop in something like a saga or a dark dimension or anything like that. Okay. Now we go into the individual entries. This is the individual characters that are on that node. Okay. And you'll see here, we've got the moment slot index, which unfortunately is not being used because it would seem certainly from the question that I got answered from Ryan Jacobson on the Age of Annihilus stream that they did, that Moments has been scrapped. I was quite excited for Moments. I don't quite know if I'm still under NDA for Moments and what Moments were, but fuck it, here we go. We'll spill the beans slightly.
Don't hurt yourself.
No. So Moments effectively was going to be a way that, and obviously it's not coming, and it might come to fruition again under a different name, it might come under Moments, whatever. But basically it was going to be a way that you could upgrade characters, not with gear, not with ISO, not with anything like that, but something else that would change the stats of a character, effectively making older characters useful again. But it sounds like from the interview that they did that they couldn't get that working. Okay. So that now is dead. That was supposed to come out, I believe, with Battle World, but is now dead. Use default stats, false. Obviously that can be true or false. AI override, this is what the AI will do. So this one, for example, this Morgan Le Fay will avoid any vulnerables. And that's because she's a skirmisher. So they don't want to put vulnerables on vulnerables. So she will target anyone without a vulnerable as she is a skirmisher. Okay. You've got the hero ID, so what the character is, the level, the loyalty, that's how many stars they are. So that is a 7 yellow star. The red stars there, so that is a 1 diamond. And then the gear tier. Okay. We've then got the abilities. So all of this has to be put in manually. Don't ask what the 4 and 5 for. I'm not sure, but obviously we've got the basic, special, ultimate, and passive there. And you'll notice here that none of those are awakened at all. So there's no awakened passives for Morgan Le Fay on this, or no awakened abilities for Morgan Le Fay in this. The positions, but this is what I think Overpower is going to be for in PvE. Now you see here you have stat mods, and you've got max HP 175, you've got damage 135. Okay, so that is a 35% damage increase on her base damage. So 135% effectively is her damage marker, which is a 35% increase in damage, and she's got a 75% HP buff. Okay. But for every single character on this node, Phyla-Vell, Doom, Silver Surfer, they've all got stat mods. Look, to every single character, they have to individually go in and put these stat mods in. So they have to individually code these stat mods. Now, if they've got an array, which is effectively what Overpower is, it's something that is looking at figures. So it's looking at criteria. So, for example, it is looking at your character, that array, and going, right, your character has level 105, it has gear tier 19, it has purple ISO 3, right, you're level 10. Okay. And then this character here, he's level 105, but he's got gear tier 20. He's got purple ISO 3. So he is a level 11. Okay. So now we've got this array that's going, right, I've got 10 versus 11. I've got 1 point difference. So I apply 1 tier in this array of bonuses. Yeah. So now in PvE, instead of them having to go into this stat mods character by character by character by character and put this data in individually, they can change this, which they're already doing. They can change the tier, which they're already doing. And the array, the Overpower array, will pick up those figures and apply it to PvE without them having to go in and put these individual stat mods in. Now, that's not me saying that those individual stat mods won't be used permanently, right? There might be certain occasions where Overpower doesn't cover, as you'll see here, like currently, if this Morgan Le Fay or this Moondragon or whatever was at gear tier 20, the Overpower 50% damage here would actually be more than what they've stat modded it for here. Yeah? Because there's only a 35% damage stat mod here.
So the Overpower would be 50.
And Overpower will be damage 150 rather than 135. So, but instead of having to go in individually to every single character on the PvE content, they're able to run it off of this array and change 2 things that they're already putting into this because they have to put levels and gear tier on the characters for them to function. They're saving themselves time. And that time they're saving themselves from not having to go in and do this stat mod on every single character. And just to show you here, there's 14 nodes that they've done in this Gladiator one. Yeah. Each of these nodes had at least 2 waves. of multiple characters. They go, look, there's 10 characters there that they've done individually. So just on the first node alone, they've had to go into this stat mod 15 times and produce that line of code. And that takes time. That takes a coder time. It might not take much time, but you take that over a course of tons of PvE content, raids, story modes, the showcases, the towers, which are PvE modes, everything like that. If they now have a quicker way of doing these stat mods, rather than having to spend time individually coding these on each character, that will give them more time to make more PvE content or more content of other places. And that can only be a good thing, right?
Agreed. For sure.
And I think sometimes
that makes a lot of sense.
I think sometimes people don't see this, They're always going to have to put the max HP in, because I don't think there's a way that they can make the array two-way. Does that make sense? So there's not a way that there's a way that they could do the damage. So they could always go, right, if this character is of gear tier 20, it's going to have extra damage. But there's not a way that they can say, right, well, this character's got gear tier 20. You've got 4 characters with gear tier 20 and 1 character with gear tier 19. So against the gear tier 19 character, this character is going to have more HP, but against the gear tier 20 ones, he's not. Which is where I think you'll get something like a damage reduction. That'll be like one of the next. I don't know what the tiers of Overpower are. I'm just spitballing here, but I can see things like damage reduction. I can see things like resist coming into it, because we see that quite often in the stat mods, like a higher resist function. There is a speed modifier. Sometimes the stat mods, you do get a stat mod of speed. That one there, I think, will be replaced by the initial thing that they were going to put in tier 1, which was the characters who have the Overpower break ties. So anytime there's a speed stat tie, they go first, which can either hurt or help. Basically, it might, for sometimes it'll be a detriment in PvE content, because it'll be a character that wants to go first, and sometimes it'll be a benefit to us, because there might be a character that matches our speed stat that doesn't really want to go first, Yeah,
that's it. That's one of the contingent, or one of the issues with it. There was some matchups you want to go second, let that person do what they do first, or be able to control what you want to control.
Which is why definitely in PvE, I think it's a bad thing, because you need that agency still to be able to decide when you want to, when you want to go. But in PvE, sorry, that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, there's a lot more characters on the board, so you're trying to get
also it's a way where
possible.
Also, it's a way where like you can, you can have content made easier or harder based on what the overpower is.
So people have been asking for harder content. It's because like you said, I've been thinking about it. I don't know. I can't think of what the PvE use would be. And I know there's a lot of fear mongering that they're trying to, again, we're going to make it so people can't play the game. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense, but maybe this is more in line with what they're actually going to use it for. That makes a lot of sense.
Also, hopefully you're still here, buddy, because I did see your comment, and I know Gid did put it up. We lost 150k players, so we have lost 150k players, but will all those players stay away? I know certainly from my alliance, there are players who quit during the. I know that comment is old. That's why
He just wanted to address it, brother, because he didn't address it earlier. It's okay.
I know that there are people who quit when the initial sort of rage 10 months ago about the character release method happened. But those guys are coming back now. They're coming back and they're starting to play again 10 months later. And they're coming back and playing because they love the Marvel IP and they love the game itself.
And as always, man, I just want to encourage you, don't let them dudes steal your joy, man. There's people that make money by getting other people upset. There's people that make money by encouraging rage. That's their style, and it is what it is. But don't let those cats take your joy, man. The game isn't right. They don't want to just jam people up. That's not what they want to do. And we need to get some more information out there. We need to get some more people out there. And like what Big Positive Geek is doing, like he's showing us the evidence, man. He's showing us what's actually happening. Right. There's alliances. I had to decline an offer recently. Like they wanted me to run another new player alliance. And it's just like, hey, man, we're just going to feed you people. And your whole point is just going to be teaching people how to play the game. And they got a guy who's going to do that for different people in the game, different style of players in the game, because people are coming up. People are coming in, bro. They just don't know how to play because the game's been around for a while.
Yeah, that's the major thing. Like there is that whole how is it? There is that whole thing of that there are lots of new players coming to the game.
As well as people, I should also clarify, as well as people that have been playing for a while, like we kind of mentioned sometimes, they don't know how to play because they're not getting the right information. Right. Yeah. You have people giving advice on certain things that they're not actually knowledgeable about, right? I heard a guy, won't say any names, the other day who told somebody to build, Black Cat and build Green Goblin. Like if you're a newer player, like you can't divert your resources to that. You don't get any return out of that unless that's the last person you need and you plan on using the team maybe, but that's not good advice. That person doesn't understand where people are in that midstream of the game. They should 100% be pivoting to the newer teams and newer characters. Those older guys are just going to get stomped. Jables, we saying it right? Jables Vice?
That sounds right. Looks right. Is that right, Jables?
So he said, Ebbs and flows, Thunderbolts will bring people Fantastic Four as well. Game feels good to get into as a new player. There is a lot of positivity when not listen to the fear mongers. And I think just got to enjoy some of that, man.
Yeah.
You got to enjoy some of that.
Oh, for that good point, Gid. This system is punishing people for going for Green Goblin, Nova, and maybe even Black Cat.
Brother.
Yes, it is.
Those characters don't help you right now.
No.
They're 2 cycles away for legendaries. Right? We got who's the new cat coming out? We got who's the new legendary?
Quasar. Oh, I keep getting told I'm pronouncing it wrong, but it's Kazar or something like that.
No,
but Quasar is how I
wrong.
pronounce
Whoever
it.
said Kazar is wrong. He didn't do his homework. It's a Quasar.
But hey, yeah, they're
a different dude.
They're two. They're 2 character lines back, if that makes any sense. Those legendaries, and we've only got to look, if they're characters that they want you to get at.
I'm hoping we get a new Nova, bro. I'm just be honest with the Annihilus coming. I'm hoping we get a new Nova, or maybe they could pump this guy up, or maybe they could give. I mean, like this is good, man. This is the stuff that I really love talking about. Like, how could they bring that to the game?
Will say, Ulfman, again, a really good example of this, right? So when they still wanted us to get hold of Red Hulk, Morgan Le Fay, Rogue, and Archangel. Yeah. They still wanted us to get hold of them, and they wanted us to get hold of Archangel even quicker, and that was really clear by the fact that they changed that first node in Archangel's Scourge from needing minions to needing villain. They want people to get Apocalypse. They still want people to get Apocalypse, which is why they made those bits easier to get hold of. Same with, I honestly do think this. I know people have gone on about this, but I honestly do think that once we are into the Age of Annihilus, that Shadow King and Old Man Logan will be made probably permanently farmable because they're needed in a degree for the Professor Xavier part. Shadow King is and obviously Shadow King is needed for Battle World, which they are continuing on with. I know certainly in the video that they've brought out today that they have touched on Battle World in that one. Again, I haven't fully watched it yet, so full disclosure, I will be watching it after me and Gid have finished this cast. But at the end of the day, when they want you to go after something, they make the path easier. And if they are trying to steer newer players away from something, they keep the path the same. You've only got to look at, for example, when they released the Invaders. This is going back a little bit now. When they released Invaders and we needed Nick Fury, they gave us everything we needed to go and get Nick Fury for that team. You didn't have to go and mindlessly farm Kree to get that team, to get Nick Fury. You literally had them given to you to go and get Nick Fury. So again, same with Nova. If Nova is your favorite character, he's about to get released in the new Marvel beat-em-up game. Cool. Maybe I want to play Nova. Okay, fine. At the moment, at this present point in time, you would need to go and do what they don't want you to do in the game as a new player, which is to spend resources on teams to unlock Nova. Now, the teams to unlock Nova are Masters of Evil, if I remember rightly, but you can get around that through just having a very, very powerful Kang, who is still a very good character to this day, thanks to his passive and his 5% speed stat passive or speed bar passive.
So I do want to interrupt, but
yeah, Karen.
I'm up against another time commitment. I got like 5 minutes.
Yeah, so Quicksilver, A-Force, Masters of Evil. So Masters of Evil, you can get by with just Kang being really big and everything else can be minimally built. A-Force, we have the new Absolute A-Force, which would count for that. So that is a brand new team. And Quicksilver, yeah, he's the only one I can't really defend. Unfortunately, that was a bad. If Quicksilver had been a kit-based character, he'd be fine. Because he is a stat-based character, the way he was released, the fact he's a dark promotion credit character, everything like that makes him a poor thing. So yeah. So it was just one team, Masters of Evil, that you needed then off that, which basically means that you would need to build your Kang up massive and have him carry you through the nodes, because certainly a level, 95, 100 Kang would certainly carry you through that node. And you've got enough resources in the month to be able to take the newest team plus some other choices up to level 100 and level 105.
And I don't know, like I said, with the We'll have to see what happens with the Age of Annihilus. But like, I know that game's coming out. So Marvel's obviously pushing Annihilus right now. There's a new Annihilation event coming out this summer. There's that game that's coming out. Marvel Strike Force is doing Annihilus. And Nova is key in that storyline. So he either gets a rework or they give us, I can't remember the two brothers' name, or they give us the other Nova, is my guess as to what's going to happen.
Richard Rider was the one that we got, wasn't it? I think that's the current Nova that we've got in game. I'm trying to remember the other one now.
I don't know off the top.
Sam Alexander. Thank you, Fnac.
Sam. Big Sam.
Thank you, brother. Sam Alexander. Yes, it's Sam Alexander being the other Nova, which, we could get.
And I'm hoping, like I said, Nova's huge in that storyline. So you were able to get him?
J-Balls, I think if your desire with certain characters, you choose that sacrifice to get what you want over optimal play. I feel that most chase certain characters won't push for the meta as hard. Most that chase it, yeah, exactly, J-Balls. I got a 3 diamond Nova. I want a rework.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That'd be good.
Yes, sir.
And that'd be cool because his battlefield effect was awesome. He is although he's like an old stat character and everything like that, his kit is still really, really good. He's just a guy that needs like a stat boost, and if he's part of a team, maybe a few changes to the team that he's in, and he would be amazing.
Agreed. Now, as I said, I'm unfortunately up against another time commitment here, but BBG, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming out today.
Appreciate you too, Gid. Appreciate you for having me on. Appreciate everyone in the chat that's been here and everyone that is possibly watching the show that hasn't, been in the chat. But guys, please do get into the comment section of this video. Chat with us. I'll be in the comment section for the next couple of hours, probably. Just get in the chat and talk. The best way we can get around this is by talking, not by, screaming from the top of our lungs, but just talking about things.
100%. And obviously, if you're watching me, you're probably watching BBG, but if you're not, make sure you subscribe to that guy on YouTube. He's got great information. He'll help you understand the economy of the game. And if you understand the economy, you can use that to work big things.
Yeah, you can.
So I got a bolt. But hopefully everybody's enjoying the day. Try to get outside if the weather's nice where you're at. Springtime's here and we need it. Enjoy yourself, everybody.
For me.
What time is it for you?
It's nearly 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock in the evening. So
shut it down, my man. You guys take care.
Take care, guys. See you later.
Maybe.